Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Reckless Optimist podcast. My name is Megan. I'm a family nurse practitioner with a deep passion for mental health. On this show, we showcase guests who have shown tenacity, grit, mental strength, and who embody the word resilience. A quick disclaimer before we start. This show is not a substitute for mental diagnosis or treatment. We do recommend that if you're struggling with your own emotional well-being, you see a mental health provider. I'm so excited that you guys are here. Let's get into it. Hey, everyone. Today on the podcast, we have Austin. Austin is a really cool guy. He tells his story tonight of what it's like to be a young person in recovery. He's 26 years old. He's got 18 months of sobriety. Very interesting person. He gives some extremely profound advice, and it's truly an honor to have him on my show. I know you guys are going to love this story. Let's get into it. Hey, everyone. Help me welcome Austin to the podcast. We're so excited that you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Can you tell the listeners where you're coming in from?
I'm in Yakima, Washington right now. Yeah.
Okay. How's the weather out there right now?
Oh man, we've had some wildfires recently, so it's been super smoky and really bad air quality and also very hot, but it's supposed to cool down starting today, so it's getting nice for sure.
The furthest west I've been is Montana, and I actually went to college out there. And I remember moving there, it was like Labor Day weekend, and it was snowing. And I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, it is. It's definitely interesting. I grew up in Tennessee, and the weather is like kind of similar, but it stays warmer a little longer, and there's no humidity. And I love the no humidity, so it's been nice for sure.
I don't even know what that's like. Like, it's thick
Yeah.
here. You know, if
Yeah.
you're from the South. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, me and you know each other through the online recovery community. And if I remember right, you just celebrated a monumental, was it 18 months? What was your sober anniversary?
18 months on the 2nd, so
Heck yeah.
18 months and 7 days now.
That's amazing. So we're going to
Thank
start
you.
our episode out with a quote like we do each time. And the quote for your episode is by Stephen King, the author. So his quote goes, "Little by little, I found that beat again. And after that, I found the joy again. I came back to my family with gratitude and back to my work with relief." What does that quote make you feel?
I mean, to me, that's like a pretty solid representation of what to expect when you decide to quit alcohol, because I remember, the first day when I decided I need to go to AA, I need to get help, it felt just earth shattering. And it felt like I had no idea what the rest of my life would look like if I stuck with it. And like the quote says, little by little, the sunlight comes back, the worry starts to fade, and you're like, oh, maybe alcohol isn't the only thing that matters in my life. Maybe I'm way better off without it. And I guess the bravery or the courage that it takes to get past day one and then day two and then day three allows you to, reap the rewards of sobriety. And it allows you, like for myself, it made improvements in family life, personal life, religious life, everything. But it is certainly a scary thing. And the little by little reminds me of kind of one day at a time. And that's been a huge thing for me. And I think that it's a good way to get through sobriety, at least while it's still tough.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved this quote. When I read this quote, it really resonated with me. First of all, I didn't know that Stephen King, the author, was sober. He's 30 years sober. I think it's really cool when celebrities are and they talk about it, just because it's so, that population of people, it's so inundated, alcohol is. But yeah, when I read this quote, it made me think of like the childlike joy that I got back in recovery. And again, it was little by little. It wasn't overnight. About 3 months, maybe 2 months before I got sober, I was on spring break with my kids. And I remember laid up drunk, had been on a bender, and I was watching my children play on the beach, and I was thinking, they're so happy. When did I lose that happiness? Why can't I be happy? And in sobriety, I found that joy again. And that quote made me think of that. So love it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we went to Seattle recently, and there's a path from Pike Place to the aquarium, and there's little slides on the way. And I went down the slide, and it was so fun. And I was like, I would never do this if I was still just a proud, self-conscious, active alcoholic. So I'm also glad to get that joy back for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting when you're in active addiction, it's like the alcohol eventually becomes the only dopamine hit that gives you any
Mhm.
happiness. And when you are in recovery and have some time, little other things start to give you just as big of a dopamine hit as alcohol did, like a cup of coffee, watching the sunrise, watching the sunset, watching your kids play on the beach, going down a
Mhm.
slide. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
well, I'm super excited to hear your story. So, wherever you feel comfortable, just take us back.
Like a lot of other early high schoolers do, I started to drink, whether that be through older kids getting fakes and getting alcohol, it doesn't really matter. But when I was 13, I really started drinking, like whether it be once a weekend or sometimes during the week, if that's when we were able to get our hands on it. So that's really when my relationship with alcohol started. And I would say that the same is true for a lot of people whenever your relationship with alcohol starts kind of in secrets because you aren't trying to get in trouble with your parents or with school or with, the law, whatever it may be. You have to learn how to hide that at least a little bit. And so that started my relationship with alcohol in a kind of hidden way or where I was comfortable with hiding it. So fast forward to senior year, whenever I was able to, figure out ways to get alcohol more consistently, I became what, you think of as the party high school guy, right? So on the weekends, I would get drunk, very drunk, way too drunk to be safe. And I thought it was normal because that's what all my friends were doing. And that's what, society led me to believe was fine. And I personally, as an alcoholic, like I feel like there's kind of categories or at least keynotes of individuals within that. And I would say I've struggled more with drinking too much when I started drinking rather than having to drink every day or wanting to drink every day because I played sports and other stuff as well. So I didn't really have time for that. So really, I would consider myself a over drinker whenever it started. So fast forward to college. College is stressful. I went to a college up in New York, and I was kind of in over my head. I barely got into the school, and academics was hard. I had a lot of other responsibilities while going to school, and my safety net and my escape was to drink. And I wasn't really proud of how much I would drink when I drank, so I would find ways to do it in private and drink alone and all that kind of stuff that you aren't supposed to do. So that pretty much sums up the whole college thing. And then now I'm an adult and I have a wife and I'm trying to be a productive member of society. And the only thing that I knew or know about being a drinker is that whenever I start, it's time to just go ham because that's what I do. And people think it's funny. And people, the crowd that I find myself with, like that's just kind of normal. So I would consistently do that. And I also, as much as I hate to admit it now, the truth is like I would like to drive when I would drink. And that is very messed up. And luckily I never hurt anybody or myself. But that was like one of the red flags that others could see that would be like, hey dude, you need to stop. Like that's not okay. And I'd brush it off because it enabled me to get as drunk as I wanted to. Like if we ran out, I'm the guy going to the gas station to get more or going to the liquor store to get more. And so essentially, the stresses of entering the workforce and trying to figure out how to be an adult on my own just solidified that alcohol was my safety net and my escape for all of life's troubles, as is true for, I think, a lot of people. But the key difference for me was that I didn't know when to stop, right? So it turned into lots of drinking and driving episodes or drinking too much and saying hurtful things to people I cared about or, XYZ. The list goes on and on. It was very unhealthy. Flash forward to March 2nd of 2024. I was skiing up at a mountain and I brought a bottle of Fireball to drink on the ski lift like lots of people do. Long story short, I ended up drinking the whole bottle while I was there and then driving home in the snow about an hour. And luckily, I made it home safe. Also, luckily, my wife was not happy with me. And finally, just that come to Jesus moment of my wife being upset at me feeling bad about it led me to say, you know what? I think I might actually have a problem. I'm going to go to AA tomorrow morning. So walked into AA on March 2nd and never really looked back. It was definitely super scary, and I I went to a place in downtown Yakima, Alano Club, the local Alano Club, and it was at like 7 in the morning, and I was the youngest person in there by probably 20 years at least. So I was like, man, am I in the right place? I hope this is the right place, because I guess the early crowd wasn't too talkative either. But yeah, I sat through and I listened to the message, I listened to the people talk, and I kind of shared while I was there. And I was amazed at one, how similar these people are that are way older than me, way different walks of life. We have the same kind of issues, and also the welcoming embrace that AA has. After I shared, there's all these strangers said, "Hey, thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here. We're glad you're here." I was like, what is this? Is this real? So that was absolutely awesome, and truly encouraged me to keep going and to stick with it. So for the past 18 months and a couple days now, I've been going to AA and also, just doing kind of recovery stuff on my own. And recently I started a podcast. So, in an Instagram page, it's called the No Booze Podcast, NOBOOZ. And it's been truly awesome for my recovery, and has really, I think, helped me solidify my identity as a non-drinker. That was the biggest thing that helped me get past the first month and the second month and the third month was I finally heard something in a meeting that was talking about how it's helpful to change the way that you look at yourself. For the whole life until I quit, I considered myself a drinker, the good time guy. And now that I'm trying to quit, I have to commit to be a non-drinker. I don't drink anymore. That's just the fact. The version of me that used to do that stuff exists no more. And once that kind of really resonated with me and sunk in, the process has been much easier. Obviously, there's still temptations and moments where I have to actively try to remember that, but for the most part, like, that's just who I am now. And so I finally got to a place where I felt pretty comfortable in my sobriety, and so I wanted to start something where I could kind of share my story and my outlook and also get a little extra AA time in a way, because one of the great things about AA is being able to go in there and talk about whatever you want related to alcohol and get stuff off your chest. And that's kind of what I do on my podcast. And in the short time that I've been doing it, I found it to be super helpful to me. And also, I think it's awesome when people reach out and say, it's helped them even just a little bit or kind of anything like that. The support is awesome, and it's also very good for me. So I'm sure I skipped a lot of fine details here and there, but in a nutshell, that is my story.
I love it. I love it so much. And I totally track with what you're saying about the podcast. Yes, I do it 100% to help other people and give stories of hope. But selfishly, I also do it a little bit for myself because it gives me
Yes.
accountability, and it's like having a meeting every time I do an interview, you know?
Hmm. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I have some questions for you about your story.
Okay.
One is, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I'm 26.
Okay, I thought you were young. You
Yeah.
looked young, and so
Yeah.
I always admire people that are young that come into recovery because I could have never at that age. There's no way I could have joined, AA or recovery groups or anything at that age. It wasn't even on my radar, you know? And so
Hmm.
I love, love, love seeing young people come into recovery and stay and being, like an example, a role model to other young people.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And also, like, I would say it's not really, I truly believe it was kind of a God thing, right? I was lucky enough that it got bad enough soon enough that I felt like I needed to quit. And, um, and yeah, obviously, like, I had so many influences, I guess, that I was lucky to run into at the right time. Are you aware of Theo Vaughn? So he's a comedian. He does stand up and a couple of other things, but he has a podcast as well. And he is a recovering addict. I think his main struggle was with cocaine, but he talks a lot about his recovery and addiction process. So he has clips on YouTube and on Instagram that he talks about kind of the struggles of recovery, and seeing that face that I respected and admired for his comedic stuff and all the other stuff talk about that was made me comfortable with being able to just admit that that was me too, you know? Kind of like you said earlier about seeing celebrities that are brave enough to talk about their sobriety and recovery. I got lucky that he was a guy that I thought was cool and funny enough, and he's also sober, so why can't I be as well?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about now. I didn't know that was his name, but real funny guy. I've seen a lot of his clips on sobriety.
Yeah, he's got a mullet and stuff.
The mullet guy.
Yeah.
Yes, he's so
Yeah.
funny. Yeah, well, I wanted to ask you a few other things. So when I hear you tell your story, it sounds like you had created an identity very young as someone who was a drinker. And then in
Mhm.
recovery, you had to build an entirely new identity of someone that does not drink. And that right there is the key to long-term sobriety is how you said, I'm a non-drinker. Like you had to say that to yourself and it's a
Mhm.
non-negotiable. I am this new identity of a person that does not drink. You had to change it at your core. And that's how you
Yes.
stay successful. Do you agree with that? And then my other question for you there is a lot of people talk about the why, whether
Mhm.
it's important or not, I'm not sure. But in terms of drinking isn't necessarily the problem, it's the ineffective solution. So, was it more of an identity thing or was there an alternative why?
Yeah, so first, I definitely agree with that it is crucial to make recovery like easier and better to change your identity because I think until you do that, you're gonna struggle a lot with why can't I just continue to be who I was? I started drinking at a young age during my formative years from 13 to 24. I was a drinker. And I sacrificed other things that I cared about, like sports and other opportunities, so that I could go drink and party with my friends. So whether I liked it or not, or admitted it or not, that was who I was, and that was my priority. So I, you know, decided to take the power away from alcohol, and the only way that I could beat it is to give it up altogether. So I absolutely agree with that. And the second question on the why, my why does matter. Like I truly believe that if I were to start drinking again, I would end up dead, jail, or worse. And, that's kind of a common thing to hear in AA. But also what it's allowed me to remain married and to not lose friends and to stop hurting friends and uh, to not lose my job or whatever else that happens to people because of the cunning, baffling alcohol that we struggle with.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. Me and you are different ages, different genders, different sides of the country, but there's parts of my story that are very similar to yours, specifically the fireball on the lift. I used to do that too. I'm a snowboarder. And so that was my
Yeah.
thing. And, my gosh, the first time I went snowboarding without it, that was like a whole process, not
Hmm.
having it there, learning to snowboard without it, realizing that I'm a much better snowboarder sober than I was drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. But have you enjoyed skiing sober?
Yes, I have. It's enabled me to actually like get into skiing instead of just riding the ski lift, getting drunk and going down the greens or the blues, you know?
Yeah.
So whether that's gonna be good for my bodily health in the future or not, I don't know. But I do definitely enjoy it more now that I'm getting off the groomers and going into the trees and like truly appreciating what I'm doing instead of just it being an avenue for me drinking, you know?
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. Like now the snowboarding is about the snowboarding. Before it was like, when can I get off this mountain to go do shot skis? You know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and, like, we've made friends since we moved here, and, like, we were able to get them into skiing, and I would be willing and happy to take the time to teach people to ski because I love skiing as it is, and I'm not just worried about getting drunk on the ski lift. So,
Yeah.
there's definitely other advantages besides just me getting better at skiing too, so
Yeah. The
Yeah.
other similarity we have is I was also a binge drinker like you. And I really loved what you said in the beginning of the episode about how it wasn't that you really struggled with, weekly, nightly drinking. It was that if you
Mhm,
started drinking, you couldn't stop. Same thing,
mhm.
same exact situation. So, yeah, that's really interesting about that, about the binge drinking.
Yeah, and I definitely had periods of time where if I was going through something super stressful, I would drink every day, and that's a problem as well, but my biggest thing definitely was the binge drinking. I had a much easier time, let's see, I guess, sticking to like, as alcoholics, we struggle with limits, right? We set limits and we can't stick to them. I was able to stick to the limit of how often I drank, but I had zero control over how much I drank once I started.
Well, and what happens over time is that you start to lose all of your confidence in yourself because you try to moderate. You're like, other people around me are drinking. Fine. I can do it too. I can moderate. I maybe got too turned
Mhm.
up Tuesday night, but Thursday night,
Mhm.
I can do it. I can moderate. But then you put these rules in place and you constantly break these rules. You constantly lie to yourself. Even like in the morning, I would wake up and say, I'm never drinking again. 4 p.m., I'm at the grocery store buying wine. Like like you said, cunning, baffling how
Yep.
the substance itself has that grip on you.
Yes. Yeah. It's crazy. And like I noticed as well, even at, when I was, let's just say 21, a difference between me and even, my friends that I drink with was if we were at a party, they would, pour out drinks and try to pretend that they were drinking more than they actually were, to be cool or whatever. But I would sneak off to drink more. So it appeared like I was drinking less than I was. So I
Yeah.
knew that I was drinking more than the, I guess socially acceptable standard, but that's still like who I wanted to be, which is just kind of crazy.
Yeah, the identity
So,
of it all. Yeah, that's so interesting. The writing was on the wall. I had little moments like that too if I look back. And I got sober at 34, but in my early 20s, probably same age you were just talking about, 21, I would drink before I went out to drink. Like what
oh yeah, right.
what was the point of that? Like nobody else was doing that but me. That was
Uh-huh.
definitely a red flag that I just ignored.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And like, especially nowadays with I feel like drinking is, advertised as popular and everybody talks about pre-gaming and everybody it's definitely a normal thing to drink and especially at a young age like during your college years, like kind of all bets are off. You can do really whatever you want and it's just he's being a crazy college kid. And those like boundaries that I guess we allow to be normal, I think it's hard to for people like me at least to transition from, well, I'm a crazy college kid to I'm just a normal person and I'm still doing this. What does that mean? So, yeah, society definitely has a role to play as well, but it is what it is. And we have to be responsible for that.
Yeah, ultimately it's our responsibility. I agree with you. It may not be our
Mm.
fault, but it's our responsibility.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So I wanted to ask you your first year of sobriety, that first 12 months. I love how you did AA. They have a great program, 12-step program. Did you have any cravings that first year?
Yeah. It took me, like I said, a couple months for me to be willing to change the identity portion, like as from a, recovering alcoholic to a recovering alcoholic who is a non drinker, if that makes sense. So, like in those first few months before I made that change, I definitely struggled with do I really need to be doing this? Like, I've been sober for 3 months now. Like, maybe I don't have a problem. And that is something that it causes so many people to relapse. So yeah, I definitely had cravings in those moments where I'm like, do I even really need to be doing this? But then as soon as you go back to a meeting or, see something online, somebody sharing their story on a podcast and it's kind of wisdom of the crowd where it's like, yeah, that is like me. I'm probably better off without it. You know what
Hmm.
I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love when people on my show give listeners practical advice. So the last 18 months, what were like one or two things that you did or what like foundation that really you think has helped you so much with your sobriety?
That is a good question. I like to think about certain, let's say, events or triggers as tests, right? So, For example, I'm about to go to the Tennessee Georgia game in Knoxville this upcoming Saturday, and that's going to be a big test for me for my sobriety because there's going to be a lot of drinking. And I'm also going to see people from my childhood or youth or adolescence or whatever that have only known me as a drinker. And, because I don't live there anymore, maybe they don't know that I've quit. And so that's going to be a test. Like, I'm almost certain that I'll get offered alcohol, and I am very certain that I would have the opportunity to drink if I wanted to. So that's a big test for me coming up. So I like to think about it like kind of like a school test. So I would like to prepare for that. And the way that I prepare is to kind of think through the scenarios that could happen and think about what I would say to turn it down and also create an exit plan. So, as much as I really want to go to this game and I really want to be there and see it and experience it all, the thing that matters most in my life is my sobriety. So, if I get to a point where I feel like I'm going to fail the test, this is one of the only tests I've ever taken that you can quit midway through and still get an A. So I like to try to plan for those scenarios, and like I did the same thing for when I went to a bar the first time with friends and when I went skiing for the first time after getting sober. It's just kind of thinking through what I anticipate the triggers are going to be and then committing to, if I feel triggered, I have to quit. And that is the only
Yeah.
way that I can pass this test.
That's extremely, extremely good advice. I love that. I love the metaphor of the test too. I'm a metaphor girly. So that was
Yeah.
awesome. So,
Thank you.
what has surprised you the most about sobriety? For example, I thought sobriety was going to be so boring, and it's actually the opposite of that. So, being a young
Mhm.
person in recovery, what has surprised you?
It's not the end of the world, and most people don't care if you drink or not. The biggest thing that surprised me was, man, I got all these drinking buddies and we like to go hang out and party and have a good time. They aren't going to want to hang out with me anymore. And that's not true. And if it is true, then they aren't really your friends. So I say that like your life only changes as much as it has to. So like I'm in a position now where I'm essentially doing all the things that I was doing as a drinker, just not drinking. And that's definitely doesn't always apply. Like there's certain things that I may not ever do again because it's too much. And for other people, if it like say if you can't go to a bar and feel comfortable, then you should just not go to a bar and that's okay. But I was surprised one that people don't care and most people are very supportive and understanding and your friends are still your friends. Life doesn't have to change. I thought it was going to have to change all my hobbies and interests. And once you kind of build a strong foundation and commit to your sobriety and that's the most important thing, you can reintroduce those parts that you used to do drinking. And if you can do them sober and you still like them, then you can keep them. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And over time, you build up that sober muscle. It's probably not the
Yes.
best idea to go to a bar or somewhere where you used to drink a lot, in that first week, 2 weeks, month.
Right.
But
Yes.
eventually, I love how you talked about earlier having an exit strategy, an exit plan, or failing the
Mhm.
test. That's an A. Like, that's such a good analogy of how people should enter that realm.
Mhm. And I've talked about this on one of my episodes, but I have like a housing analogy that I like to talk about. So whenever you first quit, you're building your foundation through AA and reading and recovery and learning all that you can about what it's going to take to be successful sober, and that is your foundation. And then from there, once you have a strong foundation, you can start building your life or your house and make that whatever you want it to look like. And as you start to add these things back into your life, it's like building a room or even just building a wall, right? Like, so for me, skiing was, I'm going to try to add this part back into my life. So I put those walls up and I carefully shook them and I shook them really hard and I made sure that they didn't fall down and they didn't cause me to want to drink or get really close to relapsing. And if they fell and I felt like I needed to relapse, then I'm going to knock it down and just start back on the foundation again.
I was just thinking about my own house that I've rebuilt. And yeah, I mean, I think the foundation took me probably 3 years just to build that.
Yeah.
I think I'm still building my house, but
Uh-huh.
It's definitely a lot more sturdy every year that goes by, so
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and if you shake a wall and it feels like it's not sturdy or it's not right, you can always knock it down and rebuild from there. And in this metaphorical house, you can build your life or your house as big and glorious as you want it to be as long as that foundation stays strong.
I love
So, yeah.
and then the foundation being, if you're a person of faith or whatever spirituality,
Yeah.
and then your core values, integrity, confidence,
Mhm.
peace, contentment, all of those things. Yeah. Curiosity.
Yeah,
Yes. I love that.
absolutely.
I love that. I wanted to ask you about your relationship with your wife. How has that changed in recovery?
Uh, I think she would say that I'm a much better husband now just because I have time to care about it. Like in my drinking life, most of my spare time was went to thinking about when I'm going to drink next or drinking just at all. So I didn't really, do the things that make you a good partner. Like I wouldn't be thoughtful, or I definitely wouldn't do the dishes and the laundry. I'm the laundry man now and I take that job very seriously. So I think that's been an improvement on her life, not having to do all that. It creates time to be available as a partner as well. And I think that my recovery process has made me a better person in a lot of ways, and that's helpful for a relationship as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like you
Yeah.
ascend higher into consciousness?
Yeah. And getting sober is not easy. And I think, seeing other people do it, it's a very respectable and challenging thing to do. So, I have admiration for all the people that are willing and able to do it. So I think that that helps relationships as well.
Yeah, that's a great segue for my next question. The decision to recover out loud is very individualistic. When did you make that decision, and about how many months were you when you did?
I would say that I'm still like recovering out loud ish. I only told the people that were near and dear to me for those first several months, the people that I would normally drink around, like, hey, I don't drink anymore. I know you won't try to make me drink now that I'm telling you this, but just so you're aware, that's something that I'm trying to do. And I just kind of circled out from there and told more people as it became necessary. A little under a year and a half in is when I started the Instagram page and the podcast, and I've finally felt I I learned how to not be embarrassed by it, embarrassed by the fact that I have a problem that other people don't have, and learning to be proud because it is a very hard and admirable thing to do, and I'm doing it, and I'm proud of me for that. And I also think that people in recovery and recovering alcoholics are some of the best people that you'll ever meet, just outward focused, and they've thought about a lot of things, and they're kind people and they're understanding people. So I'm a proud alcoholic. I'm proud to be associated with that group of people. I'm a proud sober alcoholic, but proud nonetheless.
Yes. You bring up a really good topic about embarrassment. I feel like embarrassment is such an underexplored emotion. When you think about it, we are here for such a short amount of time on this earth. We are a cosmic blink. Why do we even give any time to being embarrassed? You know what I mean? We should
Yeah.
really get more curious about why we find things embarrassing. That whole topic is so interesting to me. And that was something I had to learn over time. I don't get embarrassed easy at this age now. But when I was younger, that would hold me back from a lot of things I wanted to do in my life. Now I'm like, I feel like I'm sure you can relate to this, but given a second chance on life. So I'm not letting anything hold me back?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's something that, like, the embarrassing things, it used to take liquid courage to be able to do, like karaoke or going down slides in public
Yeah.
or dancing at a wedding or whatever. And those are such precious and pure and beautiful life moments, and you actually don't need alcohol to do them, believe it or not. Like you can do them sober, and you'll remember them and you'll enjoy them just the same. I think one of the things that helped me with that is like people aren't paying attention to me as much as part of my brain would like to think they are when the embarrassed part of my brain thinks they are. I'm just living, and most people don't notice the embarrassing stuff that I do. So I'm just going to do what I want to do for
Exactly.
the most
Yeah.
part. Yeah.
Yeah, and even being, out on social media, having an Instagram page, like all of that. A lot of people are embarrassed to do those things, but it's just holding you back. But I love what you talked about.
Mhm.
Yeah, most people are thinking about themselves. That's the reality. They're not actually thinking about
Mhm.
you. So just do whatever you want, dance however you want,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and even if they notice, it's not like, it it's not gonna be as groundbreaking for them as it feels like it will be, you know? Like, if I'm dancing really embarrassingly at a wedding and people see me, nobody's gonna remember that.
No,
I'm the last priority that day, so
exactly.
just do whatever you want, have fun.
Yes.
It's life is short and it can be sweet, so
Yeah, I love that. I have one last question before the lightning round. What is your plans moving forward? I know you have the podcast, you're 18 months sober, married. Where do you see yourself in the next few years?
in like a sobriety aspect, I just want to one, stay sober, and two, I would like to keep the podcast going. And I don't really care that much about growing the podcast or like making it a full-time gig or making money off of it at all. And that's something that as I've gotten into the Instagram world, I've seen there's like, sober coaches and there's a lot of paid sobriety stuff that you can do, and I like being a free resource, and I like spreading free resources just so people like me, if you stumble onto Instagram and your algorithm is similar to mine, you might think that a paid sober coach is the best or the only option for you to get help. I would like that to not be the case. Like, I want it to be very open as to what you can do and what you can do for free, and make all the good resources that I've found and that other people know about easily accessible, because it seems like there's a lot more people quitting alcohol these days than there used to be. I've seen some statistics and whatnot, and I love that. That's great. And I would like to just kind of be a part of that. It's good for me too, so I want to keep that going.
Yeah.
As far as personal life goes, just kind of keep it up, enjoy it all, and not take it too serious.
Yeah. You were speaking my language earlier. Yeah, about the podcast. Before we jumped on the interview, I had said the same thing to you that I always want to be a free resource. And,
Mhm.
I have the privilege that I have a job that I love and I never want to leave my job. I'm a nurse practitioner and I get to help patients. And I think that's
Mhm.
been so cool to have this as my passion project. I don't have the pressure of
Right.
having to make this my job, make money off of this, monetize it, make it the most popular podcast ever. No, none of that matters
Right.
to me at all. And I think that's what we need when it comes to the world of recovery because we're working with such vulnerable people that they don't need to be taken advantage of.
Yes, I 100% agree. Yeah, I'm actually working on it right now, and as of the past couple days, I've seen enough like of the Instagram ads like, do you want to make six figures as a sober coach? And it's like I don't like it. There's so many people out there that want to help others for the goodness of their hearts or for their own recovery. So I want to try to figure out a way to just keep making it free, and I guess grow the free sober support community big enough that that's pretty much all there is.
Yeah. I want to be a
So
part of that movement as well. And I think when you
yeah, let's do it.
let's do it. I think when you talk about it, it's so interesting because really, and you know this from AA, the cornerstone of sobriety and recovery is service work. Service work.
Hmm.
That's really what keeps you
Yeah.
sober as well. So that's essentially what we're doing. But if you're making money
Right.
off people, I don't know that you could call that service work.
Yes, I agree. And like man, we could talk about this for a long time, but I also understand that there's like a time and place for it. Like rehab, there's costs, somebody needs to pay for that, and people that went to school for 8 years to specialize in addiction and those tough one-off cases or those rare cases that it requires a real professional that knows a lot. Like, I understand that. But I think the largest part of the community um is going to be just fine with going to AA or going to some AA alternative, and then being a part of this free sober community where we support each other and we talk about it and we're vulnerable, um and yeah, that's all that needs to be for, I feel like, most of the hundreds of thousands or millions of people out there that are the same as us.
Yeah, I mean, we could totally do a whole podcast episode on this specific topic.
Yeah.
And I do think that there are some good recovery coaches. However, they need to be certified. They need to be under a governing body with a code of ethics. There has to be some type
Right.
of governing agency over them and that they're trained
Hmm.
in it. Like that, I'm 100% backing those people. I think that that's great. It's the
Yeah.
people that just are labeling themselves and they really don't have any education. That's where I get concerned.
Yes. And the advertising, and I get it from a business standpoint, you want your service to feel valuable. And I'm sure it is valuable about as much as going to AA or something like that is, so that's not completely a scam. But to advertise it as like, this is really how you're going to change your life is just not true. You don't have to pay anybody unless you're a specific scenario where you need an addiction specialist or a therapist. Like you might have to pay for those, but those people are certified and they've done all the work. Have you heard of Newform? It's an app that I just found. It's Newform, and it's like essentially an online AA community. And they have meetings regularly online. And then if you live in certain areas, I'm not sponsored by these people or anything. Like I literally just found it in efforts to find something to create a free resources sheet to spread out. But I just found that and I thought it was cool. So,
Yeah.
maybe you would like that too.
Yeah, I'm going to check
But
that out. That's awesome. Thank you for
yeah.
sharing that. So, we have made it to the lightning round of our show. I asked the same 5 questions to each guest. Season 2 will have new questions, but these are yours.
Okay.
All right, first question. You're given 3 options. You must pick one. Would you shark dive, bungee jump, or skydive?
Skydive
Okay,
for
love it.
sure.
Love it. Have
For
you done it
sure.
before?
No, but I really want to.
Okay. All
Really
right.
want to. Yeah.
Number 2, you're in a simulation. Every time you walk into a room, the same song plays. What's your song?
I love music, so it's so hard to pick a favorite song. Slow Train by Billy Strings.
Okay, Billy Strings. So good. So talented.
Yep.
All right. Number
Yep.
3, what's your favorite Disney movie?
That's hard. Man, these are hard. I would say let's just go with Lion King.
All right. Number 4, what is something you're obsessed with?
Golf and skiing. Those are my new passion projects besides the podcast. I
Okay.
love to golf and I love to ski. And it's kind of perfect in Yakima. Like just as it gets too cold to golf, there's snow on ski mountains. And just as the snow starts to melt, it's warm enough to golf. So
I love it.
those are, yep.
Awesome. All right. Last question, kind of a heavy question. What does freedom mean to you?
Freedom. Man, that is so good. Failure and mistakes give us the most knowledge more than anything, more than winning. And I think a lot of times failure teaches us more than wisdom because a lot of us are stubborn. So I think freedom is the ability to go out and fail on your own and be able to try whatever you want and learn and just keep learning and just fully experience this several trips around the sun that we call life.
Yeah. Yeah. That was very well said. Extremely well said. Well, where
Thank
can
you.
people find you? Where can they find your podcast and your page? Give us that take.
I'm on Instagram. It's the No Booze Podcast is the username, and that's NOBOOZ podcast. And then my actual podcast, there's links in my bio on Instagram, but I'm available on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. But
Love
yeah.
it. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I can't thank you enough for sharing your story. It's going to help so many people. I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Yes, thank you very much for having me on. This was fun. Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk more.
All right. Bye, hun.
All right, bye.